Good afternoon and welcome to WIN TV, Washington Informer News. I'm your host, Denise Rollard Barnes, and I'm so glad to be with you again this week. Boy, this has been a week of all weeks. I know that many of you may not even be sitting here watching us, which I hope you are, but you're kind of glued to the news channels trying to figure out what the results of this election is. But before we go there, I want to make sure that you picked up a copy of the Washington Informer this week. I really wish we could have done sort of a documentary ourselves on how we came up with our front page, but you can see it and pick the Informer at your nearest newsstand, and we're going to get a copy over here so I can show it to you really quick. But we had a little time trying to figure out, and I think many of us have predicted that we wouldn't have the results of this election right away. But what we wanted to demonstrate on the front, thank you, Chevry, what we wanted to demonstrate on the front of the Informer this week is that one, we were out there, all that led up to this time, we voted, and the question is, what now? And that is in bold type because it's a bold question that so many of us are going to continue to be asking, not only when the returns come out and we determine who the winner of this national election is, but what now? What's going to happen in our cities? What's going to happen in our communities? What's going to happen in the country? What's next? What's now? So we're going to be following that. So pick up a copy of the Washington Informer at, like I said, your nearest newsstand. And if not, go to WashingtonInformer.com. Again, that's WashingtonInformer.com. There's a digital edition of the Informer there. There's also all the stories that were published in this week's issue. And I want to give a great shout out to our news team here at the Informer. And you're going to see a few of them later on in the show. To talk about what Tuesday, November 3rd, election night was like and how they were able to get these great stories, and we got the paper done this week. And I always like to add that when you go to WashingtonInformer.com, there's a little box there that says sign up. Please do that. It helps us. You know, these have been some difficult times, and you all, I want to say thank you so much for those of you all who have supported the paper financially. But the greatest support that we can get from you is just for you to sign up and become a subscriber. We send the paper out every week. We send daily news, breaking news emails. And we also, believe it or not, have offers. We're going to talk about one of those later on with one of our guests. But we have opportunities for you all to, particularly if you're in the DMV. And my brother, giving my brother a shout out, Calvin Rolark, he just called me a little while ago and said, sis, he's out in Kansas. Sis, what does DMV stand for? You know, is it the DMV, like Department of Motor Vehicles, which I thought it was for so long. But those of us who are in the DMV know that the DMV stands for DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And so if you're in the DMV, we want to know that you're here. We have all the, I think, great breaking news that can help you with all the decisions that you have to make, and especially as we go into 2021. I am already there, you know, when it comes to 2021 and looking at what we're going to do once this virus slows down. And we're going to talk to the mayor about that today. Once our businesses begin to open and what we can do to make sure that the Black community has survived this pandemic, will survive this next presidency, and will survive so many other issues that are in front of us. So, yeah, we had a real nail-biter election. We don't know who the final victor will be in the national election. We know there are lawsuits flying all over the place. There are people who declared themselves winners, or an individual who's declared himself a winner. We've got a runoff in Atlanta, which means that we might get another Black person added to the Senate. And I say that this moment is pregnant with opportunities, and but we have to be careful and be aware and stay engaged. Black folks showed out like I don't know what. We need to be proud of what we've done in this election. And America in general, 159.8 million people voted, which is an unprecedented number in a presidential election. And hey, it was a great turnout, and I'm glad to say that I know that you all that are watching this show not only showed up, but you took somebody to the polls. So we don't have nothing to be shamed about because we did our job, but we know that the job does not end there. So one thing that's not over for us, as I mentioned before, is the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's unbelievable that the United States has topped over 233,000 deaths. Yes, somebody's working on a vaccine, but until then, we know we need to continue to wear our mask, practice social distancing, use our disinfectant and all those other things. Please don't drink it. And do all the things that we can to keep our community safe. The holidays are coming up. Some of us will find some ways to meet with close family and friends, but we know what we need to do to keep the pandemic at bay. Veterans Day is next week on Wednesday. And to all of our vets, we want to thank you for your service. I'm always so happy when I'm in a store or something and someone's wearing their uniform, and how people just often say to them, just thank you for your service. And it's a lot when you decide that you want to give your life for your country. And it's unfortunate that so many don't recognize how many Black folks have given their lives for this country since its inception. And so for those who have, and we are really happy to hear one of the stories of one of our writers who talked about her dad, so many unsung heroes that we can need to know about, and we've written about in this week, Brenda Schuyler, who talked about her father and his involvement in one of the wars. I can't remember which one, but he is a hero, and we celebrate him as well. Please share photos of yourself in uniform. For you vets out there, share photos of yourself in your uniform on our Facebook page. Again, it's Washington Informer Facebook. So, we want to recognize you. And so send us, or if you have a family member. I know my dad was in the Air Force. He was a paratrooper, believe it or not, in the Korean War. And so we definitely want you to share your photos so that we can honor you next week. We'd love to see them, and we love just in honoring our vets. And so today we have another exciting show. Can I sound more excited? That's what people always ask me. Denise, can you sound more excited? I wish I could, but this is excitement. Hey, but we have another exciting show, and I am excited, to be honest with you, because we have DC Mayor Muriel Bowser joining us, and we have so much to talk about that in a short matter of time. We've been trying to get her on, and I know she's been extremely busy popping here and there, trying to keep our city safe and dealing with local businesses and, of course, issues at the White House. But she did call and tell us she had some time to spend with us today. So don't go away, because we want to make sure you can join us in that conversation. And if you have questions that you want to share with the mayor, I don't know if I'll be able to get to all of them, but if you're watching the show, feel free to put them in the comment section, and I'll try to get to them if I can. But we're looking forward to that conversation. And we'll also be talking to Careshia Moore, who, with Usher's New Look organization, has helped transform the lives of more than 50,000 young people. Hey, as my daddy used to say, if it is to be, it's up to me, and no one can save us for us but us. This is an example of what that's all about. So we'll also be talking to her. And next week is Black Restaurant Week in the DMV, DMV's Black Restaurant Week. And I am so proud that the Washington Informer is a sponsor of DMV Black Restaurant Week. And we're going to have two of the founders of that organization, actually three of the founders of the organization, and the week and the celebration that's doing so much to assist our Black businesses, Black restaurants during this time of COVID. So they'll be here to talk about that. And then the end, we're going to close out the show with our election coverage across the DMV from our dynamic reporting team from the Washington Informer to talk about sort of what they observed that night in the news and how we got the paper out, and also what they see going forward as it relates to the issues that impact this community and also the nation. So I want to welcome Careshia Moore and Shanice Andal. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. Careshia is an attorney and the president and CEO of the Usher's New Look organization. And Usher's New Look teaches young people to think about their gifts and talents and understand their power. Shanice has participated in UNL's Disruptivator Summit, which is the organization's signature event to bring young people together for leadership training, education, and professional development activities. So we're going to stop and see a little bit of what Usher's New Look organization is all about.
When I speak of people like Einstein, Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, all those people who were willing to test the limits, to push the limits, to be disruptive in an innovative way, that is what being a disruptivator is all about.
Welcome, Shanice. Welcome, Careshia. So glad to have you on the show.
Hi, we're glad to be here, Denise.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to start with you, Careshia. Tell me, I mean, first, what does being, I guess, an executive director of a program like this with Usher, you know, with his name and brand on it, when you first got involved, what did you think you were getting into?
Well, I had just left law practice, Denise, and what I knew was that I was called to really be a part of helping young people to transform their lives. And, you know, one of my colleagues introduced me to Usher's New Look and said that they are doing fantastic work. And I found myself at a reception there, and what I saw there were young people who were excited about their futures, who had obviously been involved in leadership training. And so when I got involved, my first experience was seeing the young people, the product of the organization. So I knew that I was going to be a part of something great. And I started volunteering, and one thing led to another.
And so where are you? You're based in
Atlanta.
Atlanta. And the program, where does it operate from?
The program operates in Atlanta as well as New York, but we are also global with our Powered by Service training programs where we train youth all across the world.
And since we're in Washington, D.C., I'm just curious, is there ways for our young people here to participate?
Absolutely. So we have what's called the Disruptivator Club. Well, first of all, let me say, we have partnered with SunTrust and brought programming to Washington, D.C. About 4 years ago, we trained about 1,000 students there at some of the schools, high schools, Cardozo, Banneker, Eastern, Bellevue, just to name a few. And it was a fantastic week. So with our Power by Service training, the students like Shanice will come in and train other young high school and middle school students in our curriculum, leadership, financial literacy, networking. But we also have a Disruptivator Club where high schools can become members of our club, just like you do Key Club or FBLA, and then those students will be a part of Usher's New Look, the Usher's New Look family, and be exposed to the learnings and the teachings that we provide for our students, just like in Atlanta and New York.
Before I go to Shanice, I just want to ask, when Usher came up with this name, Usher's New Look, what was the message he was trying to convey with the name of that organization?
Right. So he and his mom, Ms. Patton, they had actually went to go sit in Judge Glenda Hatchett's courtroom, and they observed a juvenile proceeding and saw youth who were there who had found themselves in situations, but it was because of lack of mentorship, lack of leadership in their lives. And they literally walked out of that courtroom thinking, these students need a new look on life. And that really set the vision for what you see today, the work we do with youth all over the world.
So, Shanice, welcome.
Hi.
How did you discover Usher's New Look? And well, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you discovered Usher's New Look.
Well, I'm currently a student at Morgan State University. I'm a senior at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You see, I bought a DMV here.
I first joined, I learned about Usher's New Look through a PBS training. So like Careshia said, Usher's New Look takes the opportunity to hold trainings globally, like well, nationally across, the United States and internationally. And we basically go into schools and we train youth. And in my case, it was middle schoolers. They came to my middle school and they trained me on leadership and networking and career development and all of these things. And I got the opportunity to interview when I was in 8th grade. And now here I am, a senior in college, and I'm still a part of Usher's New Look.
And I mean, what inspired you about it to get involved? I mean, what was it that you saw that you wanted to grab onto?
I think the way that they came into my school, and as a 13-year-old in middle school, any opportunity to get out of class, we were all excited about. But they really made the experience in just a day so interactive and so inspiring. And they had people who were around my age telling me that I had the ability to be something more than what I was taught that I could be. And that was very inspiring to me at a young age. And it was definitely something that I wanted to get more involved in. And so sticking around with Usher's New Look and seeing the different ways that they helped me develop as a person and help me reach things that I didn't think that I could reach without them was very important to me, and I appreciate it so much.
We could talk about this for forever because I love, just encouraging young people. I think they need it, and I think there need to be programs. Everybody talks about that. But how do you measure success? What is it that it's nice to get young people involved, nice to have them talk, nice to do training. I mean, a lot of organizations do that. They don't have the name Usher on it, but which of course makes it very, very special. But how do you measure success?
So, success for us, it really is about youth transforming their lives. That's what Usher's New Look is all about. Practically, that looks like a student graduating high school who may not have even thought about graduating high school before, a student getting into college, right, who did not have post secondary plans, and then a student going on to career, having identified a talent and a gift that they possess and are able to now work in a career that highlights that, but also give back to their community. And it's all the things that go along with that: being able to have a resume, interpersonal communication skills, financial literacy, being able to close that wealth gap. That's what success is for Usher's New Look.
I think it also is just being able to do anything that you can say you're proud of. I think Usher's New Look constantly provides us with opportunities to do things that we might have been hesitant to do without them, but they just act as such a great support system that we're able to try things that we normally wouldn't have tried. And when we try it and we're successful and we're proud of what we're doing, that's just the greatest thing we could ask for.
Wow, that's powerful, Shanice. I'm glad you added that. Careshia, how can people, young folks, if they see this show, parents, whomever, if they want to know more about it and get involved, what should they do?
They can go to our website, www.ushersnewlook.org, or they can email us info@ushersnewlook.org, and certainly follow all of our social channels, which is at Usher's New Look.
And is there age limit or education limit?
Well, all parents can inquire, because guess what? If their child is too young, they will eventually come of age, but we serve students 14 through 24.
Wonderful. All right. Fantastic, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. Shanice, you getting ready to graduate?
I am.
Woo-hoo! What you going to do next?
I'm planning to go and teach abroad.
To go where?
I want to teach English abroad.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Wonderful. Okay. All right. Hey, that's a measurement of success, a graduate who takes the message across the waters. Best wishes to both of you all, and thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
All righty. Wow, I love it. We need more programs like that, or at least programs that we support and send our young people to. We don't need necessarily a lot of programs. We just need to get involved in the programs that exist. And speaking of programs, if you are a subscriber to the Washington Informer email, you got an invitation or got some information about the DMV Black Restaurant Week. Yes, that's taking place this Sunday, beginning November the 8th through November the 15th. And over 70 restaurants are participating. And at least a list of the featured restaurants can be viewed if you click the link posted in the comments section. So go ahead and do that. But joining us now are co-founders, Dr. Aaron Tucker, Chef Farrar Tate, and Andra Johnson, a managing partner of Cocktail Bar. Serenata in Northeast. Thank you all for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Yeah, this is what is this? Which annual one is this? The third?
Yes.
Fantastic. And
Thank you from the beginning for just letting us know that you're there and helping us make it possible. So thank you for always being there for us.
Well, I love restaurants. And not just a week, but all the time. My husband said, "What are we going to do for dinner tonight?" He said, "Let's find a restaurant." I said, "Okay, I'll figure one out after the show today." So thank you all for doing this. And I just want to start. I don't want to do a lot of history because I mean I know, or maybe someone can jump in and tell us, why a Black Restaurant Week. So I'll ask that question first.
Well, the restaurant industry is very hard, even for anybody to start. And so we knew that we needed to provide education and opportunity for us to come together to support our restaurants, which tells the story of our history through our food and our culture so much. So we knew that we needed to come together to support the entity that employs so many people also. So DMV Black Restaurant Week is about all of us working together to make sure our restaurants stay alive.
Yeah, and if I could, sorry, Dr. Tucker, if you wanted to go ahead. Yeah, I think that part of what was so special about our restaurant week from the jump was that we made a conscious decision at the beginning of including businesses that were restaurant, like in every single facet, right? So if you couldn't sit down and have a 3-course meal, you could still get a coffee. You could still get something from a food truck. You could still get something from a caterer, and including those businesses in there as well, because the cost of entry and the barrier to enter the restaurant industry is so high. And I think, number one, that's kind of what sets us apart.
Sorry about that. Fantastic. And that's what I like also is that, it's just not those, white tablecloth places that you go to, but like you said, we're getting ready to do a story on a popcorn guy, I don't know if he's a part, but, those are the things that I think make Black Restaurant so exciting and what you all do really all year long. What is going to be exciting? What's going to happen this year? What do you all have planned?
Absolutely. So our motto is culture, education, and good food. And that's what we live throughout the year. This year, we always have a conference, but this year our Food and Beverage Education Conference is taking place virtually over 5 days. It is free. Tell everyone they can sign up all over the country to learn from the best. And the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area has the best talent. And we are going to showcase that while teaching everyone about different aspects of the business, whether it's how to get your business started, whether it's understanding your mission and where culture fits into the area, how can you can include tech, everything that it takes. So we want restaurant owners. If you can't make it, send your managers. Wherever you are in the country, come on, register, and we've got all the information for you. That starts on Tuesday and we go through Saturday. And
we're at headquarters now over in Virginia, having an amazing lunch experience. So these restaurants are open, they're safe, and they need you to come in and participate in a wonderful dining experience.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Farrar, because that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about. I mean, restaurants have taken a real hit during COVID, and some of them have had to shut down. Some are reopening with, of course, limited seating capacity, and some of them have just shut down altogether. But what have you all observed, and what is keeping some of those restaurants, besides, of course, customers supporting them, which is the bottom line? But what do they need to do in order to get through this period, this pandemic?
Well, we chose the power of collaboration as our theme, but it is more than just a cry. We need to come together. Our cities have provided a lot of information and support, financial support also. So you got to connect up with your city. But you also connect up with organizations like RAMW and all the other organizations in DC, the Urban League, to know that you're not by yourself. And we are asking individuals to make it a part of your weekly schedule to dine out, to literally have someone come in to order food and bring it home with you. And what about you, Dr. Tucker?
Absolutely. One of the things that AJ mentioned was the fact that we were always inclusive from the beginning. So we didn't have to pivot. But what we realized with our restaurants is the fact that many of our restaurants that were in the neighborhoods during COVID actually took a very hard hit March and April, but then somewhere around June, July, they started to get more business. There was a focus on buying local. There was a focus on buying for Black-owned restaurants. And so a lot of our neighborhood restaurants actually saw an increase. And what we realized very quickly is that they needed the support from tech. They needed the support from mobile platforms so people could just literally place their orders and then come and pick them up. So the stories that you're not hearing about are the smaller takeout neighborhood spots that do not get the national attention. And that's the reason why we focus so much local. We're hyper local, hyper regional for that reason.
And AJ, I want you to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I saw through this entire pandemic was that if you already had a business where you could do to go, you were okay pretty much. It took businesses like mine, right? Like trying to figure out how to package a cocktail to go. That took us a little bit to kind of figure out. But it really was about adding the technology and the platforms to get to other businesses. DC, just as from a food culture, has a very, very, very heavy stance in carry-out culture. And so it became the norm. It became what everybody needed. So yes, there was definitely a drop-off, and there has been drop-offs in terms of restaurants. But I think from the standpoint of where we're looking at from Black-owned businesses and businesses owned by other POCs, if you've already had that to-go carry-out culture part of your business already, you were pretty much okay to get through. And it really wasn't just about reaching more people and being more accessible. And so it's really good to see right now. Yeah.
Fantastic. And the other thing I think with that is technology. I think I heard Dr. Tucker mention that, but some of our businesses, back before COVID, may have been difficult. And I'm not saying Black-owned businesses, I'm saying businesses in general, to reach folks by phone, ordering online. All of that was not the norm. And now you're talking about it is the norm, but will the education part of this explore how technology can support businesses going forward?
Yeah, without a doubt, we have done so much teaching. That's why the conference is so important, because we're providing you the information and the support to activate the information. Technology is going to be one thing that kind of levels the playing field for a lot of our small restaurants, to make sure that we're using tech services, we're using grab and go techniques. So our conference is free, and we made every restaurant can participate this year for free because of the support that we've got from Washington and all the other agencies and all the other people sponsoring. They made it possible for everyone to participate at no cost. So please, how do we get connected to the conference?
All right, dmvbrw.com. Also follow us at dmvbrw on our social media platforms. We start Sunday.
Yeah, and it goes the whole year.
I know that you all are probably sitting there at the table trying to finish your lunch while the rest of us are starving, wishing we were where you are having lunch. But the mayor hasn't joined us yet, so we don't have to rush off of this conversation because there's more. I mean, this is the DMV. This is DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And yes. So, how do those restaurants connect with you all if they? I don't know if they can now, but to be a part of this initiative.
Okay, AJ?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and take this for sure. So obviously we opened up the registration about a month before, right? And this year we've never had this many people sign up. And I am so proud to be a part of this particular programming, because what we've done and what we've tried to do throughout these now 3 years of this event is make sure that people are connected to the information that is out there and readily available, but may not get to them, right? And so, yes, this year, it's really about giving back to the restaurants, right? It's a free registration. As far as I know, the link is still open?
Yep.
Right? Okay, the link is still open. We're taking people midweek. The link is open. Please sign up, because one of the benefits that comes with the sign up, and it's the biggest benefit, is that you do this year, instead of just getting the 1 year free to RAMW, you're getting 2 years free to RAMW. And what that means is that you're then included in all of the emails that they send out. You're included in all the programming that they send out. You're now on their radar for doing events with RAMW, with other restaurants that then you're now attached to, and pushing and elevating your business to where you need it to be, and possibly reaching people that you never reached before. This is something,
So, Andrea,
and again, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go on.
I
have another question for you, though.
Go
ahead.
It's the caterers, it's the mixologists that do the private events. It is the small business coffee shop. It is the cocktail bar. It is everybody. And that is something for this year that, the 2 years free for any business is a huge, huge plus.
You're not by yourself. You're not by yourself in this game. We're here together to collaborate, to help you continue to serve your community amazing food. What's your next question, Denise?
Yeah, thank you, Farard. I feel like I'm the guest now, but
you get off service now. So.
I know. I gotta ask Andrea, because she said, you said you had to kind of figure out, how to do cocktails so that you can kind of tell us if it's not a secret, tell us what you did. How did you address that?
Well, thanks to the mayor and a lot of pushing, and honestly, there's a lot of restaurant organizations and owners that got together and really pushed for things to be able to help our businesses stay open. The DC restaurant industry brings in so much money, so many jobs. And so it was imperative that we figured that out. So the rules changed, right? But we were able to sell bottles. If you didn't have an off-premise license, you could sell a bottle out of your store. That was a very fun way to just get rid of products, right?
Okay.
Which you could never do before. But then doing pouches, right?
Yeah.
And actually this year,
sounds like you've kind of figured it out. So that's a good thing. That's good. We are going to have to move on now. We just got the signal, but I'm glad that you all figured this out. And again, if people want, we're going to post the information on the screen right now. Farad, you had a closing word?
Yeah, you just want to thank all of the people like yourself and all our other sponsors that made it possible. Please go online.
DMPED, DMVBRW.com. Thank you. Office of Nightlife, DMPED, DCRA. Thank you, Washington Gas. Thank you, Thompson Hospitality. Thank you so much.
And visit your local restaurant. Use your phone, take pictures, and
all right.
If they're not on there.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate that. So they're excited, and I am too. So I'm gonna figure out where to go this evening for DMV Black Restaurant Week. So I'm again getting more excited as the program goes on. I am happy to have joining us DC Mayor Muriel Bowser. We're going to take a minute just to kind of look at what she's been doing throughout the city.
It's been a busy time for DC Mayor Muriel Bowser, from overseeing protests and the situation at Black Lives Matter Plaza to being focused on recent elections. Meanwhile, one of the most important missions of the mayor is focused on the DC school children and the plight in the wake of coronavirus, as well as keeping tabs on everything going on in the city, whether it's public safety and the situation around DC, or focused on the recent election results and welcoming in a historic number of African American women. DC Mayor Muriel Bowser is all about DC, and she's focused and ready and willing to serve anytime you ask her. For Washington Informer, I'm Hamil Harris.
Mayor Bowser, welcome. Can we hear you?
All right.
All right. There you are. Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, and thank you so very much for joining us. We've been trying to get you with us. And so are you in a classroom right now?
I am. I'm in the Great Ward 8 right now in the Excel Academy at the former Bernie School.
Fantastic. And so we're going to start. There's so much going on right now. As you know, I mean, we don't have to tell you. And so I think I want to start right now with the election, not only the local election, but we'll start. Thank you. I think we're distant enough.
Okay.
But starting with the
Tells
national.
me, my hair never gets right once I take it off. Okay,
Oh,
here we go.
well, hey, I'm kind of whatever, but I got it. That's the girl thing. And speaking of, it's so much, but when I'm speaking of the girl thing, I think I will start there because this election now, it seems to have you excited because for the first time we have a majority female city council. Let's talk about that.
That's awesome. It's not the first time. You probably remember early in our kind of home rule history, we've had majority female councils filled with exceptional women leaders. We haven't had a female council in quite some time. I was sharing with some members of the press that when I was elected, for example, in 2007, Linda Kropp was the outgoing council member, and she was the only African-American woman on the council. And now we'll add 2 African-American women to join Anita Bonds on the council. So I'm looking forward to working with all of the members. We are also privileged to have men on the council who support women and have a feminist agenda. So we look forward to that too. Having said that, all women don't advocate for or have the same agendas, and we're going to work very hard with everyone on the council to do what we need to do in DC to get over this pandemic.
Speaking of Linda Kropp, I also think we should mention the fact that she was the first woman chair that I can remember of the council.
And the best.
And I won't argue with that either. I think she did a great job personally. So this national election, let's talk a little bit about that and what in your mind and actually what would make a difference between, let's say if Biden is successful, which it looks like he will be, what that means for the District of Columbia.
Well, I think it's great that we'll get a new president. I think we all went into that working hard to make sure we got a new president, but it's bittersweet in some ways because I, for one, wanted to see the total repudiation of Trumpism in America. And I don't think we've seen that. There is hope still that we could capture the Senate. It looks like in Georgia. And I will be looking to people who know a lot more about Georgia politics to let us know how we can support that.
And, it's interesting that someone said to me, the hands that pick cotton now pick presidents, but also the hands that rocked babies also may have rocked the White House. Black women have played a significant role in this election. Black women mayors all across this country played a significant role. And so, you call it bittersweet, but what does that mean for voting?
Well, I think that this pandemic has shown us on both sides, on Democratic and Republican side, that more people voted than ever. I think it also shows how fractured our country is by state. The popular vote actually doesn't appear to be close. I mean, just like it wasn't close the last time, but by state, it is. So I think there's a lot to celebrate, but we also have to examine why we didn't take the Senate when all of us thought we would. Why did we lose House seats? And what does that mean for a new president, his mandate to govern, and how are we going to make him successful so that we have a 4 years that's bold, that addresses the inequities laid bare by this pandemic and the racial reckoning that we've experienced in this country. So we have to see this kind of as a beginning. Yes, we can be rid of Trump, but how are we going to, wring every single benefit out of this next 4 years? And I'm, for one, willing to roll up my sleeves and support the new president and our sister Kamala Harris, who will be the vice president, and support, I hope, what will be a majority Democratic Senate. But that we're going to look to Georgia to see not only if it can deliver the presidency, but can it deliver the Senate, because that's going to be so important.
I'm glad you're keeping it real, because folks need to know that the party ain't over
Right,
yet.
it's not over.
And so, yeah, it's just starting. So I'm glad that you're conveying that message. And speaking of pandemic, I mean, you've been out there every single day trying to make sure that the district residents are safe, and keeping it real about what we need to do. So what's happening now? Well, I know you made some announcements yesterday. What do residents really need to know about what's happening with COVID-19?
Well, residents need to know that this virus is with us, and it's going to be with us until there is a vaccine. So we need to be very diligent about protecting ourselves from contracting COVID or spreading COVID. And the recommendations are the same. Limit your activities, stay 6 feet apart, but most importantly, wear a mask and wash your hands. We are, as we go into this holiday season, asking residents to stay close. Have your dinner at home. Don't have a big party. We know that a lot of this virus spread is attributable to small gatherings, people in their homes where they feel comfortable with people that they feel comfortable with. And among that group, the virus can spread. So just be very, very, very careful. Limit your activities. So what do I mean when I say limit your activities? Somebody that you know and love invites you to have a backyard barbecue. It turns cold, you all go inside, it's 25 people there. Or maybe there's 7 people there. Somebody is sick, 3 people, then they may not even know it. Now 3 people have COVID. You get invited to the White House or to some other grand event that you don't want to miss. You don't want to offend your host. So you come, I'll say 5 minutes, and then you end up in a small room where somebody's coughing and you can't get out. Now you're sick. Those are the types of things I'm talking about. Or you say, I'm going to get my hair done. I'm going to go to a restaurant, and I'm going to go to a casino one weekend. People are doing these things. And then in all of that different activity, now, while, all of those things are nice and may be fun, but they're also unnecessary. So kind of pick and choose. So maybe you say, I need to get my hair done, but then I'm going to stay in for the weekend. You have to think about all of the ways that you can limit your own activity, so that we can still do the things that we need to do, just not all at once and not often.
And we know that some people will be traveling over the holidays.
They don't have
They're going to go to visit. Well, right. They don't. And maybe that's the point you're trying to make. They don't have to, but some will be, and they'll be coming back and coming back into the city. What does that mean when they come back into the city? What are you telling them?
Well, we have updated our travel advisory, Denise. Since I think July, we've had we have a requirement for a 14-day quarantine when you go to a high-risk state and come back to the district. Right now, just about every state falls into that high-risk category except 6 states. So it's kind of ridiculous, we thought, and impractical to have advice that applied to 46 states. We think a better way is to tell people to get tested. So if you're coming to the district, if you've invited your family from Michigan, we want your family to get tested before they come to the district, 3 days before they come. Isolate at home for that 3 days, come to the district. If they're going to be here longer than 3 days, we want them to get tested here as well. And while they're here, to isolate. Don't go to the casino and to the restaurant. If they're coming to visit you, then they should stay with you and not mix around in the city. So we think those are ways that people can track and monitor their own health status and not infect someone unknowingly.
On another note, Mayor, the city is very proud of you and proud of what the city did in creating Black Lives Plaza. But we know all of that had a lot to do with the issue of police relations, with communities. And the district is experiencing a spike in homicides. I know I'm over here in Ward 8, and it's like the Wild Wild West right now. At the same time, we're dealing with the issue of police reform. And some people are very critical of you and how you're handling it. But how can you tell us? I mean, one, what is causing the spike, if you're aware of the homicide rate in the district, and also what efforts are you making right now to address this issue of police reform in the city?
Well, let me kind of start with your question about crime. And I don't know about you, but I think every DC resident, no matter where they live, deserves to live in a safe neighborhood. That people should walk the streets, kids should be able to go to playgrounds, grandmas should not be scared in their own homes. So when you looked at me, you started your question in the right way. And that was, Mayor, what are you going to do about that? Basically, that's what I heard. That is my responsibility to make sure no matter where you live, Ward 8, Ward 3, Ward 1, that you feel safe in your home. And when people don't feel safe, they want the government to do something about it. So we have a lot of tools at our disposal. And some of them work all the time. Some of them we're testing. And some of them we have to tweak. But know this, that we're going to try everything that we can to stop people from shooting each other. You asked me what's causing the spike in homicides. People are shooting each other. And why they're doing that, how we can stop them, how we can get guns out of their hands, and how we can hold people accountable for using a gun to kill somebody. Those are all things that we're working hard to do. Part of the equation is enforcement and police enforcement. Part of it is the courts holding people accountable for committing homicide, but also a part of it is getting to people before they commit those crimes so that they can choose other methods. So we continue to work on strategies. And I'll be talking about that a little bit more, about how we can organize and do some things a little bit differently to keep people from using guns. Now, at the bottom of it all, some of it is what the government can do. And others, the real solution, I think, is when we look at our young people who have become older people and middle-aged people who have grown up without hope. And they feel like they don't have many options. So when you feel that way, using a gun or taking another person's life is not as meaningful to you. So at the bottom of it all is, how do we restore hope and provide opportunity to people who don't have it? And then I'm sure that we will figure out how to get not just out of the spike that we're in now, but how we can deal with real entrenched crime that has taken root in too many places in the district.
Now, some folks, though, still are, I mean, we're looking at the situation that happened up on at the 4th District, the young man, that wasn't a shooting, but it involved or sort of exacerbated this whole issue of police and defunding police, and how police are accused of being overly aggressive, particularly with young African-American men. How are you addressing that issue and the whole issue of defunding the police?
Well, you know my background, Denise. I'm an ANC commissioner, a ward council member, and a mayor, all wrapped up into one person. And so I've worked with communities, especially in Ward 4, on Kennedy Street Northwest for many years. And so I would be careful to suggest that the community doesn't want Kennedy Street to be safe and doesn't want police protection and patrols. Because I can assure you, I could probably show you 1,000 emails that would suggest to you that the government has to be active on Kennedy Street. Having said that, the police have to follow the rules. The rules are there to protect everybody, to protect the police and to protect the public. And unfortunately, what we saw, And the reason why we have a chase policy in the city is because we know that chases can be dangerous. If I had $1 for every time somebody asked me, why don't you chase all of those ATV riders that are riding through the city, causing havoc? Because if somebody gets hurt in one of those pursuits, it's a difficult question to answer. So should this young man have been stopped? We haven't had we haven't had the opportunity to interview the officer yet. You know how these investigations go. So it may be that he should have been stopped. But at some point when it becomes a pursuit, if that's what the investigation determines, that's when you're outside of the rules.
Well, we know that that's an ongoing subject. I know your chief has some concerns about, his budget in the going forward, and we'll see. Of course, post-election, we're also concerned about the safety of the city from outsiders that come in to wreak havoc. But I want to switch right now because I appreciate your time and I don't want to hold you. But you're sitting in a classroom right now and had to initially sort of reverse your school opening plan. So what are you telling residents now about,
Well, I haven't reversed anything. So that's the first thing that I want to say. We have a plan to open. We're in a building right now that's ready to open. I just had a meeting with my public schools officials and it's ready to open. What we need is our teachers back. And so we will be working with the Washington Teachers Union to continue to work with them so that they can be in our school buildings teaching kids. That's why we spent all this time in building the most talented and highly effective teaching corps in this region, because teachers being with their kids in impeccable school buildings is the key to learning. And so we're going to do everything possible to make sure our teachers are in classrooms teaching our kids. Meanwhile, we're also going to have a strategy, what we call a care classroom. The system that the children use is called Canvas. And we're calling these the Canvas Enrichment classrooms, where we are going to have adults that work with children. Many of our nonprofit partners who work with our children will be the adults that supervise their in-person experience. So the kids will do their virtual learning in their classroom with one of our nonprofit partners or another adult who will be the supervisor of the care classroom. I feel so grateful to our Department of General Services staff, our Emergency Operations Center led by Director Chris Geltart, who have made sure that we have gone above and beyond to make our school buildings safe and ready for learning.
So you're a mom.
I am.
And you have a little person that may be getting ready to go to school.
She's 2, so she's not, well, she is actually ready for school. She's just not old enough.
I can't imagine what it would have been like for you, and I'm sure that you empathize with a lot of parents out there who've had to do this distant learning, who have had lost jobs or having to work from home and teach their children at the same time. And what message do you have for them? I mean, I know there's probably one of encouragement, but.
Well, one of the big messages that I have is actually, it's not for the teachers, but it's about the teachers. I think what parents are real clear about is that we're not teachers. We haven't been trained on how to teach kids, and the job that teachers do for developing these young minds, it's a profession. They know what they're doing, and so I know that parents are doing their very best, given that this is not what they do every day. This is not what they've been trained to do. They love their kids. Obviously, they're going to supervise their kids. They're going to make sure they're listening to their teachers and doing all of that. But as much as we love our kids, we're not replacement teachers, because so the message I would give parents is that you take it easy on yourself You're doing the best that you can. Keep doing the best that you can. Our teachers are doing the best that they can remotely as well, being innovative and coming up with ideas to keep kids engaged. So keep doing that. We'll get on the other side of this pandemic, and we'll get back to the way learning should happen.
Bowser, I want to thank you so much
you.
for this time, and hopefully you won't be a stranger. I know once we get past the first, well, probably the next time we'll be out together. Are you going to do your run again at the
well, we're working on that. We're working on how we can do it, all across the city, so everybody doesn't have to come to the same location. But yes, we're not going to let you off the hook. You have to do the Fresh Start 5K on January the 1st. And we'll get out the details of how we can do that.
All right. Well, we're going to have a very interesting 2021, so we want to stay close so that we can help to deliver the message. But I want to thank you so very much for being with us today. All right.
Thanks, Denise. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Muriel Bowser. There's so much we could have talked to her about, and if we had a whole hour, I'm sure we would have, and it sounds like she would have appreciated that opportunity to talk to us about so many issues. And thank you all for the questions that you may have submitted about that. We're going to jump now to, because we only have a few minutes left, we're going to go over a little bit because I definitely have to talk to our reporters who've been out there this week working hard, trying to keep the stories alive about our election, not only the local elections in Prince George's County, DC, and Northern Virginia, but also our national elections. So we'd like to bring them on right now. Sam Collins, Stacey Brown, Hamil Harris, you guys look tired. Kevin McNair, our fearless editor, you guys look like you looks like you covered a national election this week.
Yep.
So I'm gonna start with you, Kevin. First of all, I just want to thank our team for, I think, a very appropriate front page, and the question we asked was what's now, or what now, and I think that was appropriate. But then in planning this whole issue, and so let's talk a little bit about the national elections. You and Stacey, I want to jump in on that first.
Well, of course, we know that they're still tallying votes, and it looks like Nevada and Arizona and Georgia's going to a recount because of the differential so small. It's pretty clear that I'm going to say it looks like Biden's going to take it. The disconcerting issue for me, and I think for Stacey as well, has just been the response from our president. You have to always be presidential, whether you're Democrat or Republican. And the election is a fair process. Everyone should have a vote. Everyone has a vote, and people exercise their vote.
And Stacey, I know that you knew going into this, as we all did, that we Kevin keeps freezing.
I'm sorry.
On us, so that's okay. You froze on us for a second. I'm going to ask Stacey. There you are. You knew going into this election that we weren't going to have results on election night. So where are we now?
Well, where are we now? So Pennsylvania is now going big for Donald Trump. For Joe Biden. He has taken the lead. They're about just about finished with the count. He last checked up over 20,000 votes. Georgia is so interesting because he's up. Biden is up there by about 2,000 votes, and they only have a few thousand left to count. And like Kevin said, there will be a recount. He's also up in Biden's also up in Arizona. But what makes Georgia so interesting, Denise, is that once again, we see that the Democrats owe Black people so much because the votes came in from predominantly Black Fulton County, which has Atlanta, the major city there that is predominantly Black, and it put Biden over the top there. And the same thing we were seeing in Nevada when Clark County came in. The same thing, even in North Carolina, though Biden trails in North Carolina by about 1.5 percentage points, the fact that North Carolina and Georgia is in play for a Democrat is amazing. And then on top of that, you have 3 crucial Senate races that each appear to be headed to a runoff as the votes continue to come in. And that's important because that changes the balance of power in the Senate. And there is a potential for no more Mitch McConnell's graveyard. Democrats can actually control the Senate if those three races in the South, 2 in Georgia and 1 in North Carolina, turns in favor of the Democrats. And one last point, I know you need to move on. Joe Biden is actually on a pace to receive 80 million votes. Now, we know Donald Trump has been obsessed his whole presidency with Barack Obama. Well, here's one little notch in Donald Trump's belt he can walk away gracefully with, if he ever does walk away gracefully, is that he too will surpass Barack Obama's record set in 2008 for the number of votes. He's going to get probably about 70, 71 million votes. Obama got 69, I believe, 0.8 million votes, and which was a record at that time. But the bottom line here, the Black voters showed up and they showed out.
I want to also add in your reporting there, Stacey, that senator, one of those senatorial seats that's up for grabs in Atlanta, right, in Georgia, may go to an African American. Right. The minister of Ebenezer Church, I think, in Atlanta. Sam, you covered Virginia, Northern Virginia. It was really good that you were able to do that for us. What did you see when you were out there among the voters?
Thank you, Denise. What I saw in Northern Virginia was a war for the consciousness of Virginia. And, as you know, in 2016, the Democrats took Virginia in the presidential election. And that was indicative of a growing population of immigrants and liberal, well-educated people, so to speak. So during this election, you saw more of the conservative wings of voters in Northern Virginia really vying for their spot, really having their say and establishing that Virginia, or some parts of it, support Donald Trump. So I had the opportunity to travel through Fairfax. I traveled to Des Plaines, Virginia, and other parts of Fauquier County. And what I learned during my trips there was that even though some parts of Virginia are Republican strongholds, you have some voters who are closet Democrats. So there's a culture shift going on, and it's gradual at times, but this election showed that Virginia is on its way to truly being a blue state. Right now, I still consider it a purple state in a sense, and people would call it blue, but I think it has some way to go, and this election showed that.
Interesting, thank you. And James, I think you spent an evening at the DC Board of Elections, but also with some of the voters in DC. We had a council with 4 members running for the at-large seat, and that boiled down to the incumbent getting back in and a new woman to the DC City Council. What else did you carry away from election night? James?
Right.
Okay. We're having
one of the interesting things, the new council, you have 2 new councilmen from Janice Lewis George.
We're going to get you out and get you back in again, James. Hamil.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean,
well, I've been, covering religion and faith, and I had the opportunity to talk to some of the top Republican officials as well as local officials. In terms of faith, I want to make it clear that when you look at it, Georgia, again, Raphael Warnock, what's the connection to DC? You had this massive mobilization of online Zoom churches from Alpha Street Baptist Church to Greater Mount Calvary, you name it, where people were able to use Zoom, use the internet to connect. And what did they do? They were told, mail in your ballot, stay home, make the impact. And I talked to Derek Harkin, he used to be at 19th Street Baptist Church, National Director for Faith Outreach. He said that was the critical difference. Because Donald Trump himself said, don't come to the polls, ignoring Corona, ignore medical science. He told his people what to do, and that was a fatal blow politically as often, unfortunately, medically. So I've been studying that with a group of evangelicals just now on TV, on the Zoom, and they moaning what happened. So again, this was something that Donald Trump did. And looking at that, the last point, I know we got to go. Gwinnett County, Forsyth County, remember Hosea Williams, all those bloody battles, those counties, we had a large number, not just of blacks, but of whites. I think Sam said it best. Those undercover Democrats, they voted. The man's get 80% of the vote. Isn't that many black people there for? So again, you see something happening with this political realignment.
James, are you with us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. So you were saying about the change up in the district.
I'll be very quick. You have Janice Lewis George, who is a very, I'll say it, left-leaning new council member who defeated Brandon Todd, who, by the way, was a strong ally of Mayor Bowser, who you just previously had on your show. And you have Christina Henderson, who will replace her former boss, David Grosso, on the DC Council. Interesting fact about Christina Henderson, her votes came mainly from the white wards of DC, whereas Vincent Orange basically came in second in terms of the black wards in DC.
Interesting. So, it's going to be interesting to see where this council goes. The mayor talked about the additional number of women now that are on the council. Kevin, I want to jump to you really quick because, people, other political pundits on other shows are making the clear distinction, which is interesting to me, that Republicans did pretty well across the country. The Republican president did okay himself, even though he didn't get the electoral votes, but they don't seem to be coming out and rallying for him. They seem pretty stable. What do you think, or why do you or Stacey think that may be the case?
Well, I think there's divisive tone and divisive language and words that the president used and has continued to use. Yesterday he was on national television and the major networks cut away from him because of his comments, and the charges, allegations about the election being fixed and votes being stolen. There's just no place for that kind of conversation without evidence, and there is no evidence. So I think a lot of Republicans luckily rode his coattails into the Senate, but many of them are now Mr. McConnell was in the middle and said, look, I don't know what to do about this, but he understands that this is going to be a change of the order, and Democrats and Republicans have to work together. We have not seen that. We've got to work together to handle COVID and all the other improprieties and inequities in the United States. And so I think that's what you're seeing right now. Republicans saying, look, enough is enough. Of course, Lindsey Graham and a few others are staying on the side of the president, and they have that right. But we are being objective and looking at it and saying, okay, it's time to move on, if indeed it is, and it looks like it's clear it is time to move on. I would say two things. One, congratulations to Claudius Witherspoon, who was a district attorney and won in Prince George's County Circuit 7, which is very difficult to do as a DA because there's a system involved when you're endorsed, and she was not endorsed, but she came in first among judges. And then in Manassas, Virginia, Michelle Davis Younger, the first black woman, the first black, and the first Democrat to become mayor of the city of Manassas. Another significant first among voters. And her vote should not come from African Americans, it's Latinos, smaller percentage of black in Manassas. But she used a combination of Latinos and African Americans with white votes collectively to take that seat. So congratulations to her as well.
And Stacey, you spent the night, election night, interviewing publishers and journalists from all across the country. We have 42 guests over a matter of about 4 hours. What was your sense of where they felt? I know that you had Clovis Campbell from Phoenix, Arizona, places where the votes were very much in play. But what did you get out of that night from those conversations?
Well, it certainly was a great night. Actually, it was 5 hours plus. But Denise, I think the bottom line, and I've spoken to many of them since Tuesday night, And the overwhelming thing is very sobering. These are not the United States anymore. These are the divided states, clearly the divided states. And I say that because when 2016, people wrote that off as, well, you know, folks came out of the mountains who had never voted before. Folks came out of the woodworks, you know, these undercover white supremacists to put Trump into office. Well, 4 years later, this year, we've been seeing protest marches, demonstrations in the aftermath of the George Floyd killing and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. And a lot of white folks stood up and marched with Black folks, and companies, white companies said, we stand with you too. You had the sports league standing with Black Lives Matter. But the truth of the matter is, for Donald Trump to get 70 million votes shows you that those people who were standing next to Patrisse Cullors and everyone else in the Black Lives Movement and Black people in general, that said, I'm standing with you. Well, many of them didn't. They didn't. The election proved that, because this should have been a landslide. Mm-hmm. It should have been a complete landslide. So make no mistake, this is not the United States. This is the divided states. And Black people fought. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have a premium responsibility to not forget that, because a lot of people don't want to hear this, Denise, but 8 years, Barack Obama forgot about Black people for the most part. He said he wanted to be the president of the United States, and you understood that. Not the president of Black America, but guess what? It's time for somebody to be the president of Black America.
Sorry about that. I had myself on mute. I'm going to end this, though, with asking each one of you in about 30 seconds or less to answer this question. What now? Sam?
Great, 30 seconds. I had more, but here it goes. But now, I think now is the time, like Stacey Brown said, to really pressure Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to really make sure that they do what Black people put them in there to do. You know, there's no need to be shy or coy about what it is that we want. And that means organizing on every level. And that means being really self-determined and being very absolute about what it is that we deserve.
What now? A moment of moments of prayer and reflection. I think we need to look at where we are and what we've done individually and collectively, and remember, as Stacey said, this is one country. We're going to live or die, sink or swim together, no matter what people may think. And we need to work on that agenda, the agenda for the American people, particularly those who are lost, left out, and underserved.
All right. Hamil Harris.
That's an opposition to a party that's in charge. What will they do? Who will be in the big tent and who will not get a job? And I think that's James Wright likes to see. We want to see who's going in and who's not going to be at the door.
And James Wright.
In January, the DC Council will be majority female, but also majority Black. Will that council be responsive to those constituencies?
All right, and lastly, Stacey Brown, you're last.
Well, I'm going to steal this from Dr. Ebony Hilton in Virginia. She says that it's time for a Secretary of Equity, which would be tasked to eradicate disparities in education, housing, health, and wealth. And really, I can't agree more. This is a start for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to start paying attention to Black America.
Gentlemen, thank you so very much for your time and for your analysis of this election. We have a lot of work on our hands talking about what now. We know we're working now on next week's paper, and I know we've got some great stories coming up. Get a few minutes rest. I know you need it. So I want to thank you, and I also want to thank the folks who have been commenting through our show. You know, so we have some favorites out there, and so I'm giving a shout out to, of course, our very own, who we've missed, Stacy Palmer. Thank you for your accolades, Enid Doggett, Anthony Tillman, who's doing some social media, and I also want to thank, you know, our fearless producer, Chevy Lassiter, and now our sidekick co-producer, Linda Way. Where did she go? Villakazi. She knows I always have a problem saying that, but Linda Way Villakazi. And most of all, I want to thank you all for joining us. We've gone over a little bit more, but I think we had a great show. We want to hear from you. So if you have some ideas about what we need to, who we need to be talking to, and what we need to be talking about here on WIN TV, if you're doing something in the community that you think folks need to know about, email us at win-tv@washingtoninformer.com. Email us at win-tv@washingtoninformer.com. We're so very happy to have had you today. We're going to sign off. It's going to be a beautiful weekend in Washington, but we've got to do what we got to do. Go out, get some fresh air, but stay safe, wear your mask, and keep hope alive. Until next week, I'm Denise Rollard Barnes, signing off.